All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Casual Talk MMA. I am Fight Night Kelvin. This is Michael.
What's going on?
Today we have a special guest in the building. This is Manny, a.k.a. E-Man, a.k.a. Sea God.
Seminator. Don't forget that shit.
Yeah, basically, great homie. Slowly, each and every day, becoming more and more of a hardcore MMA fan.
Stop.
And he just loves saying ridiculous shit. So we thought it'd be a good idea to have him on.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
We hope going forward that we bring in more friends.
Yes, absolutely.
That want or that like MMA.
Yep.
And that want to discuss it with us. So,
yep.
Manny, you're officially our first guest.
I feel honored.
It's pretty dope.
I mean,
you're
you guys are the
special.
ones that got me into MMA.
Hell yeah. And these conversations will just get deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
So let's start it off. Let's talk about this weekend's fights.
Abu Dhabi.
UFC 242, Abu Dhabi.
So do you want to start from the top and then just work our way?
So actually for this one, I think we can keep it pretty short and just talk about some of the highlights for the fight. We can just start it off talking about the main event.
Yep.
And then we talk about whatever was interesting after that.
Okay.
So right from the get-go, the main event. I predicted the fight wrong. I had actually picked Dustin to win this fight.
Me too. No, actually,
don't tell me you picked Dustin.
I didn't pick Khabib. I picked
What?
I'm sorry. I picked Khabib, but I was rooting for Dustin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So in a way, I lost either way because I wanted Dustin to win. But
yeah,
you guys have a lot of faith in Dustin.
Yeah. Well, okay. Here's the thing. So
he's just a likable guy.
He is, but I mean, you can't let that influence you too much when you're picking, right? So here's the thing with Dustin, and I agree with you. A lot of people agree with you that I might have too much faith in Dustin. I mean, I don't think so. But here's the thing about Dustin for me, right? Because like, I picked him beating Max Holloway, and when I picked him to beat Max Holloway, I got the same thing, right? Everyone telling me I'm crazy, he's overrated, all this and that, right? For me, there's a big turning point in Dustin's career when he fought Justin Gaethje. If you go back and watch that fight, Justin Gaethje was damaging Dustin. Mm-hmm. He was putting it on him. He was putting the pace on him. His leg kicks were tearing up those legs. I mean, it's round 2 and 3, and you can already see the hematomas and like the blood inside of Dustin's leg, right? And Dustin was getting a little tired. It didn't look good, but watching Dustin really have to dig deep, stay in the fight, and put it on Justin Gaethje to win that fight, right? To me, showed me that you're dealing with a guy who is used to being in bad positions in a fight and can really dig deep and give it everything that he's got, right? Some guys aren't really doing that well when it's their turn to be the nail, right? They do great when it's their turn to be the hammer, but not when it's to be the nail. And watching Dustin fight Eddie and Justin, that's what I was getting, right? So he beats Max Holloway. He proves to the world that he really is good, right? When was the last time anybody saw Max Holloway in that much danger? He arguably hurt him more than when he fought Conor all those years ago, right? So here's the problem. I picked Dustin to win, right? And he obviously got mauled just like everybody else. The problem is I actually kind of got it right because Dustin landed the shot that I thought was going to win the fight. It played out the way I thought it was going to play out. I thought Khabib was going to be able to play his game, but when they were standing on the feet, Dustin was going to be able to catch him, and Khabib hasn't fought anybody with that kind of power, right? So he landed the shot that I thought he was going to land. It just didn't end the fight. That's what I got wrong. And it maybe goes to show that people underestimate Khabib's chin. You know, we talk about his wrestling and his cardio all the time and that his striking is improving, but he's obviously got a chin.
Okay. So what was your takeaways from the fight?
I mean, every time that we see Khabib, we see him fight like a more difficult opponent, right? And have to show more areas of his game. So Khabib has been scary for years. And after this last fight, he's continuing a trend where he just looks even scarier.
Right.
Because,
dominating.
Exactly.
He looks very dominant.
Because he got hit with what I thought he was going to get hit with, right? And it didn't end the fight. So that just add that to Khabib's tool belt.
Right.
He can grapple. He has great cardio. His striking is improving. And now we know he can take a hit too.
Yeah.
He definitely didn't crack under pressure.
No, he did not.
He did not freak out whatsoever.
No.
I think my biggest takeaway is how dominant, obviously, Khabib is.
Yeah.
Poirier, at one point during the fight, I thought had a chance to really win the fight when he pulled off that guillotine. And it looked like it was really tight.
Yep.
But Khabib was able to slip out of it. I was telling you in the car, like, I was rooting for Poirier, but if someone held a gun against my head and told me to pick one fighter, I'm going to pick Khabib.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on a different level.
It's
the
scary.
guy puts pressure on UFC fighters that they haven't seen before. And, like, if you watch him take people to the ground, he does this move where he'll put your legs between his legs and then squeeze them together where you can't move.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know about you guys, but that's, like, such a uncomfortable position, knowing that there's nothing you can do to get out of that spot. Yeah. Like, you're hopeless.
And then at that point, the only thing you have to defend yourself with your hands.
Right.
And he'll grab one of those wrists and tie it behind your back. And at that point. Exactly.
Khabib was controlling this fight throughout the entire fight. I think the only time where Poirier had the chance was when he landed that shot.
Yep.
I can't tell if it was an uppercut or a hook, but either way, he threw a shot, and Khabib looked like it hurt him. I don't think it really did.
Yeah.
But I was screaming at the TV because me and you were watching it. Pressure. Yeah. And he was trying to pressure, but Khabib was backing up. He's too good. And he probably wastes too much energy doing that.
He did.
And he got tired. And then immediately after that encounter, Khabib took him straight to the ground.
Yep.
So you guys are talking about, like, at least you were talking about how he got rocked really hard and he stayed calm.
Yep.
And he handled that fight very well.
Yep. Right.
But he also survived that guillotine.
He did.
How crazy is that to you guys, though? To be in a guillotine for that long and kind of just tough it out till he.
Well, honestly, I'm thinking, like, can you remember another instance where he was in that position?
I don't think of it
because I can't. I think that might have been his first time where he was almost being put away off a choke.
And he even admitted afterwards that he was pretty close to getting it. So it just shows a couple things, though. It also, speaking of other things that people don't give Khabib enough credit for, is his fight IQ. Because
he's very smart.
Because here's two mistakes that Dustin made, and it seemed like Khabib almost knew that these mistakes were going to happen. The first one was after Dustin landed that shot, right? You're that close to putting a guy like Khabib away. Yeah. You have to pressure him, right?
You have to pressure him.
So he lands the shot. Khabib immediately starts backing up. Immediately, right? Dustin sees what's happening. He starts pushing. He starts laying it on him, right? The problem is that he didn't hurt Khabib as badly as he thought he did. Mm-hmm. So when he starts pressuring, he started throwing leather, man. He was... I remember there's a punch in particular. It was a right, like an overhand that he threw. He put everything into that shot and missed, and he did it more than once where he was throwing and missing, right? So it just shows that, like, he thought he had him hurt, but he didn't have him that hurt because Khabib was still able to move out of the way. So that's number one, right? That was a big deal because you saw Dustin's gas tank deplete significantly.
Yeah, and then Dustin didn't land a whole lot of shots.
No, he didn't, right? So that's number one. That's the first mistake, is that Dustin started trying to pressure him, and it just wasn't the time to do it. Khabib was fresher than Dustin thought, right? So Khabib, I'm sure, was probably like, I'm going to play coy here and let him swing himself out. So that's one mistake that he made. The second mistake was, I don't know if necessarily this is a mistake, but holding that guillotine. As soon as that guillotine was out, for how long he was holding it, Khabib knew he's done. Like, his arms are done. And you could see it, man. Like, immediately, as soon as that guillotine slips out, in less than 5 seconds, Khabib throws his leg over and gets on his back, right? And something that I thought was really interesting was immediately as soon as Khabib takes his back, he starts attacking with chokes, and both of Dustin's arms are still on the ground. Right. He's not defending with his hands.
Just like great.
That's the biggest mistake fighters make, is they give up their back to Khabib. And I've seen it with Conor, and I've seen it with Dustin.
Way too.
You cannot do that. You cannot give up your back to that guy.
The other frightening thing to me is that, like, going into this fight, and for good reason, Dustin was as confident as he could possibly be, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, just look at who he beat. Beat Eddie Alvarez, beat Justin Gaethje, beat Max Holloway, right? This dude trained hard for this fight.
For sure.
The only person that's ever fought that many fights before getting a title shot is Michael Bisping. That guy had to work really, really hard to get his title shot, right? It's a big moment. He trained his ass off. Yeah. What was frightening to me is that in round one, Dustin had the same look that everybody else has when Khabib is mauling him. That, what the fuck do I do here look? Mm-hmm. The looking at your corner like, what do I do? We saw that look on Dustin's face in round one. I was like, that's not good. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, he did not respond to that pressure well. Mm-mm. And I feel sorry for him.
I do.
Because, like, after the the fight, he almost teared up.
Yeah.
He basically teared up.
Right.
So I felt bad for him.
Right.
And now the question, like, let's not talk about Khabib right now as of yet, but let's talk about where does Poirier go now?
Yeah.
Because he did tweet about Conor.
Yeah. Well, for a split second after the fight, and of course, I mean, he's emotional. You never know what happens.
Did you think after that fight he was gonna hang it up?
I mean, just the fact that he said it is
like
kind of
his
crazy.
body language. Like it seemed like okay, he talked about his road, everything he's went through, the years that he's fought, and he came up short.
Right.
Like it felt like there was something in me that told me he might.
And the other thing is like
announce his retirement.
He also said like I wonder if I could have done more or whatever. But
right.
I don't think he honestly believes that, because like watching that fight, I feel like he did give it everything he had.
Right.
Which is, again, like maybe when he rocked him, he knew like after what happened in that first round, you have him hurt, you got to take him out right now.
Yeah.
Like right now. Right. So I think he gave it everything he had, and he knows, like he's felt Khabib now. He knows what it's really like in there.
Absolutely.
So with that knowledge, you think he has a better chance with Conor?
Poirier or Khabib?
Poirier.
So I like this fight. I told you when we were in the car a couple minutes ago that this is the perfect fight for Conor to come back to.
Yeah.
It's a winnable fight for Conor, and it's a winnable fight for Poirier.
Yeah.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because these guys are two strikers. They fought before, right? I think it's a favorable matchup for both guys.
Yeah.
And it's a big fight.
Right. Well, I mean,
it'd be a big fight.
We know what we're going to get out of Dustin Poirier, right?
Right.
Because like obviously he dealt with Khabib this time, so there was a lot of grappling involved. But on the feet, I mean, just think about this for a second, right? He beat Eddie Alvarez, who was a former champion and a tough dude. And I remember watching that fight. He began the finishing sequence with his hands. It was a left hand that started that domino effect that eventually led him to beating Eddie Alvarez. When he fought Justin Gaethje, the finishing sequence starting with his hands. It was a left hand that started that finishing sequence. And he obviously didn't finish Max Holloway, but again, as we talked about earlier, when have you seen Max Holloway get beat up that bad? He was getting hit a lot, and he was getting rocked. So you can tell Dustin's got power. The point is, on the feet, Dustin's as good as anybody in that division, right?
I'd agree.
So if you take that, right, you also have to wonder, what does Conor look like when he gets back in the cage?
And that's the biggest question. He has a lot of questions right now for a lot of people.
Right.
Because he hasn't fought since last year against Khabib.
Right.
I just don't. I think Conor is not a stupid person. He's one of the smartest people on this planet, I think, honestly.
Okay.
And I feel like he's really going to milk it and take it to his advantage. Like us not knowing anything about him or his status, if he's still training or not.
Right.
I think this dude's in the best shape of his life.
So do you think then, knowing that he's being called out by Poirier, that he's, okay, this is the fight I should take because,
look,
it's a winnable fight for me?
All I'm saying is that Khabib-Conor fight was a stupid amount of money. And we know for a fact that Conor's doing it for the money.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way. I think he's going to run through Poirier, and then he's going to call out Khabib again.
For sure. No, like I said, this is the perfect fight to come back to for Conor.
Yeah, because that's two
no
fights
question.
right there. That's an insane amount of money.
You know what I mean?
I really think Conor Khabib too.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're going to have to see what happens with Khabib and Tony.
I don't want to jump the gun.
But like I said, I feel like McGregor, for him to come back, this is the perfect moment for him.
Yeah, because
if he wins this fight, then there's an argument for him to get that rematch.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Depending on the outcome of Khabib and Tony.
Isn't it interesting how quickly things change? Because going into this weekend, when we're talking about potential fights for Conor, we were talking about the only thing that makes sense is probably the winner of Cowboy versus Justin.
Right.
Right? But now that we have Dustin calling him out,
that's the perfect,
in just a matter of a couple days, that makes way more sense.
Yeah, I like Conor on that matchup. If it ends up happening, I hope it happens before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Conor's been training.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Poirier wants to come back that soon.
Right.
Or maybe take time off after his training camp for the championship fight. But
yeah.
I like Conor in this matchup a lot.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to depend obviously on what kind of Conor are we getting. Are we getting that hungry, that motivated Conor?
Right.
Or are we getting the Conor that just wants to come back and make a paycheck?
Honestly, go ahead.
Because he's going to make a fat paycheck.
Yeah, he is.
I think he's hungry. I really think.
I think so too. And we haven't talked. Did we talk about the Conor interview with Ariel?
No, not yet. But that's a really good thread that he just started talking about right there. I think I think Conor's hungry. Also,
I think so too. That interview showed me that he's hungry.
What was said
because I feel like he feels embarrassed for the outcome that happened between Khabib.
I totally agree. Like Conor was the top of the game.
Yeah.
Like he just ran it, and then Khabib kind of like humbled him a little bit.
He did.
He did humble him for sure.
But even if like, I don't think Conor would want to go out that way. Like his legacy, like him retiring. Losing a fight with Khabib. Like I think he's really hungry to get that redemption, and then he has like that.
I think the legacy part is important to him.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a really important thing to mention, because if we're talking about hunger, right? The guy when he was really young, like if we remember like Cage Warriors, Conor, right?
He was a beast, bro. I see some of the knockouts.
He laid out what he was gonna do, right? He was. If you remember, like he never really talked about like necessarily being the best or whatever. Like his goal was always to be the biggest thing in combat sports, make a bunch of money, and get out.
He was proving that.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he makes it to UFC, he comes like talking all this shit.
Yep.
And then he's slowly backing it up.
Yeah.
And it turned into what he is now.
Exactly.
It's really like when it comes to sports and like people talking shit, it's really easy to hate those people because they're just cocky. But Conor literally backed it up.
Yeah, he's the most confident guy I've seen.
But here's the thing, though. So obviously back then, that is what was driving him. He wanted to be the biggest name in combat sports, make a ton of cash, and get out, right?
Yeah.
He's got that now. He was the biggest thing in combat sports, right? Even being this far removed from active competition, and after the mauling he took, and after all the PR shit, he's still a giant name in MMA, a big draw.
He still is, no question.
So what is it that motivates him now? And I think it's all of these questions. It's all of these conversations that are being had. I think he knows about this, and that's what's driving him, right? So I want to bring up a quick example. So Dustin obviously called out Conor, and then Conor replied. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Conor replied to Dustin saying, like, bro, like, why do you want to fight me? I fed you to the canvas in 90 seconds last time, like, right? So Ben Askren, of all people.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So Ben Askren says...
Man, I hate Ben Askren.
Ben Askren says...
I hate him too. Don't worry, I hate him too.
He says... Ben Askren says, let's be serious, Conor. Conor made too much money to ever have the desire to train at world champ level. He ain't getting younger. Those times are gone. Only glory days and hot air now.
Wow, that was Ben Askren?
Yeah. So Conor said, why so serious, right? Which, I mean, not that the comment gives it away, but the fact that he's paying attention, right? He sees.
Right.
Well, and it's not just fans. It's his colleagues. It's his fellow fighters. It's coaches. Everybody is doubting this dude right now.
Yeah,
everybody,
and that's the recipe of motivation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
There's no question about it.
I feel like if he does get that fight with Khabib, and he wins that fight, which most likely could happen, I want to favor that situation.
If he beats Khabib,
so now they're 1-1. I think he's happy with walking away tied, knowing that he's tied to one of the other best fighters.
I can see that happening because like because
like if you're looking at it from like a publicity standpoint, like what would a third fight get? Like I feel like a third fight might be a little excessive.
Against Khabib?
Yeah,
I think so. I think that could happen because it's very personal between those two guys.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, after the first fight,
it's a very personal fight.
I'm surprised this hasn't happened sooner.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Tony.
Yes.
Tony's
so
got to get that shot.
Tony, and so then let's talk about Tony. I love you, Tony.
Just because you met him.
I wholeheartedly believe this.
Okay.
Tony is going to be that guy that's going to stop Khabib. I just believe it in my heart.
So you're going to have to drop some facts.
I'll give you my reasons why I believe
I'm supposed
Tony.
to be the casual right now.
Okay. So when we were watching the Khabib fight this past weekend, I told you I kept yelling at the screen, pressure Khabib.
Yeah.
You have to make him feel uncomfortable because he's used to making you feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
So how does he respond if you make him feel uncomfortable?
Right.
He doesn't like being pressured.
Right.
And when he does, he's going to get away from it a little bit like we saw. Name me a guy in that division that puts pressure on his opponents like Tony Ferguson.
I mean, nobody does it like he does.
I've had people tell me, like, one downside of Tony is he comes at you, but he takes damage.
He does.
I don't see him taking damage from Khabib because he doesn't give that much damage like that.
Okay.
When they're on the feet. He gives damage on the ground, but not on the feet. So if he's going to pressure Khabib, he's going to be uncomfortable, and now you're going to throw him off his game. On top of his insane cardio. He's not going to get tired. I don't see it happening.
I mean, obviously...
neither will Khabib.
The difference in this fight, though...
Well, Khabib tires... I mean, he does get tired from all the energy he puts out on people.
on the ground.
On the ground. Like, we saw it against Conor. I think round 3 or 4, he kind of took a step back a little bit. But Tony, I've seen his fights. He does not get tired, and he gets better as the rounds go on. I just see, like, he has the ingredients in my mind that is going to work in his favor against Khabib. I feel like he's the guy.
I mean, it's not a shocker, but obviously the difference in that fight comes down to what happens on the ground, because we know
and I like Tony on the ground.
Yeah.
He's trained by Eddie Bravo, who I don't know if you know about Eddie Bravo, but he is like the top tier guys when you think about BJJ.
BJJ. Yeah.
And he talks highly of Tony, right? Long, tall. He's as tall as me.
He's got a lot of weapons, dude.
He has a ton of weapons.
He looks so short.
He's big, dude.
When I took a picture with Tony, I was shocked about how tall he was.
Yeah,
he's as tall as me. He's a big guy.
He's got a big frame too.
He's a big guy for 55.
He looks like he's 5'6".
Like that picture, and I'll post it up on the podcast. But that picture, like, we're side by side.
And his arms are enormous.
Yeah,
really.
Like, there's a reason they call him El Cucuy, because his no, I'm dead serious, bro. But like his like silhouette, he looks like a boogeyman. Like
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Tony's trained by Eddie Bravo.
Yeah.
But
I think the big difference is the cardio.
But Khabib is trained by bears.
That's true. Well, okay, look, here's the thing, right? So, like, what's funny is Tony talked about this before the Dustin and Khabib fight, and literally exactly what Tony said was going to happen happened, right? Mm-hmm. And that's that. We were discussing this earlier too, is that Khabib obviously has amazing wrestling, so he can use it wherever he wants. But
right.
He seems to have figured out that the most effective way to use his grappling is to pressure people, back them up against the cage, and as soon as they're back up against the cage, he'll shoot, trap them, and they're screwed, right?
Right.
Tony already said that he knows that that's going to happen. He's like, if Dustin lets Khabib back him into a corner, it's over. And that's exactly what happened. So Tony knows that that's going to happen. Tony also it's like a mirror image of Khabib, because they're both two guys that will not stop coming forward, right? The only difference is that we saw Khabib get hit, and when Khabib gets hit, he backs up. And when Tony gets hit, he keeps going forward. And so here's another thing. If Tony's putting pressure on Khabib and they're away from the cage, mm-hmm. and he, shoots for a takedown, yep.
and he takes him down in the middle of the cage,
right.
he doesn't have the advantage of pinning him against the cage anymore.
Exactly. And
how is that going to look like?
Exactly.
You have all that room in the middle of the octagon. That plays into Tony's favor.
Yep.
But you're saying
that's why I like it so much.
In Khabib's last fight, you've seen him in two positions that we've never really seen him in, mm-hmm. right? And he adapted very well.
Khabib?
I don't think there's any difference if you're talking about scenarios with mm-hmm. Tony being someone like a different kind of style Khabib's not used to.
Yeah.
I definitely think Khabib's going to be well trained and prepared.
I have no doubt he's going to be well trained for this fight.
I definitely think like he's going to adapt, and we're going to see a different kind of Khabib and a different kind of style.
Okay.
That would make a great fight, especially because it's kind of weird, and somebody might not agree with me on this, but there's a thing that Khabib does to people, right? And Khabib makes people very cautious, super cautious, and it makes them play everything as safe as possible, mm-hmm. right? We know Tony's not that guy. Tony does not play it safe.
Tony
doesn't.
Does
not give a fuck. That dude will throw two spinning back fists.
He does not care.
Same time, like back to back.
Guys, I think guys play too cautious against Khabib.
Yes, but here's the thing. Dustin got Khabib in danger by throwing some freaky shit out there. Right? Because he jumped that guillotine. Mm-hmm. He jumped into guard, jumped into that guillotine, right? If there's any and if that put Khabib into danger, if there's anybody that's down to try some freaky shit, it's Tony Ferguson.
Yeah. So then I'm getting the sense that you guys like Khabib over Tony.
I mean, if it comes down to
I feel like you for sure.
Okay,
like,
look.
I believe Khabib.
Okay.
I think Tony has a better shot than anybody at beating Khabib.
No question.
I think Tony presents a lot of weapons that Khabib has never faced before. Mm-hmm. But how do you pick against Khabib? I can't confidently say that anybody would beat Khabib at 155.
Right.
Anybody.
There's just something in me that I see Tony and the way Khabib fights, and Tony knows, like, where you're going to get from Khabib. Yep. He's going to put you against the wall. He knows that.
Yep.
And I just feel like Tony is the guy. He has the tools to take out Khabib. I don't know if he's going to knock him out. I mean, who knows? But I like him in this matchup.
Well, I mean, the last time Tony knocked anybody out with a punch like that.
Like, I see the weakness. I see the weaknesses of Khabib, and when I point out those weaknesses, they play into Tony's favor.
You know what's
better than any other fighter I can see in that division.
You know what somebody else mentioned though, and I don't know if this is by design, but Tony doesn't necessarily have the best takedown defense. He gets taken down, right?
For sure.
But then again,
everyone's gonna get taken down by Khabib.
Is it by design? Is it because Tony doesn't really give a shit to be on the ground?
Right.
So if he's getting taken down, he doesn't care. He doesn't necessarily
waste that energy.
Right.
Yeah, he might not necessarily want to avoid.
And like I said, if he gets taken down in the middle of the octagon, it's not like he's gonna be in an uncomfortable spot.
Yeah.
You know,
and
he's not still just comfortable.
He's not just gonna sit there. He's gonna throw elbows.
He's gonna
he's
exactly.
Gonna move.
He's gonna move.
But here's the wild card though: is in the Conor and Khabib fight, we saw Khabib stand, which against one of the best strikers.
Yeah,
I mean, arguably, obviously, but I feel. I mean, how unrealistic is it for him to sharpen up on his striking and then really stand up with Tony?
Yeah.
Well, the difference there is we saw a Conor that hasn't fought in 2 years,
right?
So you can make an argument about ring rust.
Also, I mean, something that might get Khabib to stand more in that fight is he also. I mean,
he didn't like Conor at all.
I'm sure he's watching. I'm sure he's going to watch tape on Tony, and if you watch tape on Tony, you're going to know that Tony's going to be there to get hit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, I love Tony to death, but that fool gets hit every fight.
He does.
So Khabib might be a little bit more willing, I guess.
I'm telling you right now, if he's willing to stay on the feet and he sees how easily he is, and he tries to inflict that damage, that's a big mistake for Khabib. I'm telling you that right now.
Because he's going to get burned out really quickly.
If he tries to go in that fight like Cowboy did and just throw shots at him, big mistake for Khabib. I'm telling you that right now.
I didn't even think about that. Maybe
mistake.
Maybe he runs into the same problem that DC did, because DC in that fight, right? He's comfortably winning 3 rounds, right? So 2 at least for sure, right? And it was pretty clear that the grappling was working for him, right? I mean, he picked up Stipe like he was a baby.
It was like a WWE fucking move, bro.
Exactly, right?
Which is scary.
But what happened? Yeah. Daniel fell in love with his hands, got away from the grappling, and then look what happened. Khabib has a game plan, and he very clearly sticks to a game plan when he fights.
Absolutely.
If something happens where Khabib starts falling in love with his hands, he could potentially run into some danger.
Yep. And like I said, that's a big mistake.
So I definitely agree with you on the stance that if anybody's going to beat Khabib, it'll be Tony. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I strongly believe that Khabib will put in that work and, be a student and really figure out a solid game plan to go against Tony.
I mean, he's never shown the opposite.
I don't think so.
But Tony's definitely the guy. As much as I hate Tony.
I love Tony, bro.
I hate Tony.
I've always thought Tony was an awkward guy until I met him.
If he loses,
he's a great guy. My opinion about Tony has completely changed.
He needs to play win or get off.
I'm such a big fan of Tony now.
He you know how we play win or get off?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if he doesn't win this fight, he needs to retire. He's old.
No, I don't know about that. I don't know. But the guy's on a 12-win streak.
Yep.
You don't get that just by sheer luck.
I saw some crazy stat the other day. I wish I could bring it up, but it says something along the lines of like the last time, and I'm sure somebody will correct it. Put it on the comments so I don't have to go digging for it. But the last time Tony Ferguson lost a fight
was against
Michael Johnson.
Yes,
but it was so long ago that Henry Cejudo
he broke his leg. Wait, didn't he break his leg that fight, or he broke something?
He broke his arm.
There you go.
Checking a kick.
Really?
Yeah, he broke his arm
throughout the fight.
And the last time Tony Ferguson lost a fight, DC wasn't in the UFC yet. Henry Cejudo wasn't in the UFC yet.
He's been in the game for a minute, man.
And Valentina Shevchenko wasn't in the UFC yet.
Really?
Yeah. He's a fucking killer.
Yeah. The last time he lost a fight. The last time Tony Ferguson lost a fight was January 2012, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, almost a lot. And that all literally just started off talking about the main event on 241.
Well, we'll see what happens, man. I really hope they make that. That is the fight that has to happen.
Yep.
It's been long overdue. Right. Obviously, it's been cursed.
Yeah.
They tried it 3 times and it all failed.
And we'll come back to Dustin and Conor later. But let's move on and talk about the co-main.
Co-main.
So the co-main, we had a rematch between Edson Barboza and Paul Felder. Right? They fought.
Let's just talk about our reactions to the fight, I guess.
Yeah. So they fought 4 years ago. They fought in 2015.
Yep.
Right. And if you pay attention to the last, I always, like anybody, I'm sure, watches the last couple of performances from each fighter leading up to a potential fight, right? And Edson's lost a couple of fights, but still judging by how he was fighting before he lost those fights and seeing what Paul Felder has done, I strongly believe that Edson would win this fight.
Yes, you did. And when you kept saying he's going to knock him out in the second round, no chance, I was getting pissed, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, Kelvin, bro, chill the fuck out, bro. Like, this is MMA.
Yeah, I mean, even halfway through the first round, I still thought, I mean, you know what it kind of felt like? Do you remember when we were watching Marlon Moraes versus Henry Cejudo? Every time Marlon was throwing one of those legs, I was like, one of those is going to land, and it's not going to be pretty. It's kind of the same feeling that I had, right? But I have to admit, man, my opinion of Paul Felder has gone through the roof in more than one way after watching this fight, right? For a couple of reasons. Yeah. Number one, he's fighting a guy that beat him once before, right? And is still, like, I don't care that he's lost 3 out of his last 4. When it comes to, like, skill set and power, still one of the most dangerous guys in the division in Edson Barboza, right? The dude is an absolute murderer, okay? So we're watching this fight, and Paul Felder is a very skilled fighter. He throws spinning shit just like Edson does. But for some reason, I was still heavily favoring Edson, right? So we watched the first round go down, and Edson's doing what I expected him to. He was throwing hard leg kicks. He was throwing hard body kicks, right? Mixing in enough hands just to keep it interesting, right? And he was landing more, which to me was playing out the way that the fight was going to play out. What I didn't count on was a couple of things. Number one, I didn't count on Paul Felder being able to avoid the knockout shot that well, right? Mm-hmm. I also heavily underestimated Paul Felder's toughness because there was a lot, at least 3 or 4 shots that Paul Felder took where I was surprised he was still standing. In particular, there was one really hard leg kick that Edson landed, and it landed flush right up against the body, and Paul Felder kept moving forward, right? So ultimately,
you underestimated him, period.
Oh yeah,
because I had that guy winning 2 rounds.
Yeah, right. So which leads us to the end, right? Which is that it's kind of controversial. He won a controversial split decision, right? In my opinion, though, what really makes it controversial was
you had 2 judges who looked at the fight completely opposite.
Yeah.
Like, remember when they were announcing the last scorecard, and it was, 30-27.
Yep.
And then I think they said Felder or something.
Okay, so
because I thought they were going to say Edson.
Yeah, 100%.
I was like, wow,
so did he. You can see it. So I thought it could have gone either way.
Right.
But if it would have gone either way, it would have been a 29-28. Yeah. Right? So we heard the first judge say 30-27, right? He says 30-27 Barboza. The next fight saw it 29-28 Felder.
Right.
And then when the last judge read 30-27,
I was like, yeah, Edson. Yeah. I can just see the judge seeing it one-sided.
I can see 29-28 Felder. Yeah. I can't see 30-27 Felder. Right? So when he said 30-27 and the winner by split decision, Paul Felder, and I was like, huh. Yeah. Because that was interesting. In my opinion, the first round went to Edson, the last round went to Paul, and the one in the middle, it's kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, I was leaning towards Felder that second round. Yeah. Personally.
Even though he got taken down. But here's the thing. He got taken down, but he was doing damage from the bottom.
So that's the thing about takedowns. Like, I don't think just because you land a takedown gives you points, a lot of points. No, did you do the takedown and did you inflict damage?
Yeah, did you advance position? Yes. Did you put him in a dangerous position? Exactly.
So Edson took him to the ground, but he didn't really make anything out of it. Oh, yeah. Because of that, I didn't give him the advantage on that aspect.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, and Paul mentioned this on his own Instagram, they both got cut, right? But Paul got cut because of a headbutt. And Edson, I believe the cut came from being in Felder's guard. He came up and hit him with an elbow and cut him open. So obviously, Paul was doing more damage on the ground. But I think ultimately what made the difference in the fight, and this is maybe why the judge gave him 30-27, people often forget that in the judging criteria, forward pressure counts. It's on the list of things that they consider. And Paul Felder pushed forward all 15 minutes. Right. That entire fight.
He did.
He was getting hurt and he kept pushing forward. He was the one that was taking the fight to Edson. Yeah. Edson felt content to just kind of sit back, pick his shots, and in my opinion, that may have influenced the judges because that judge might have thought, okay, who wants to win this fight the most?
And you have to also take into consideration that these judges are not MMA guys or experts. Yeah. So in boxing, you usually favor the guy who's giving it to you. Yep. Right? And I think they take that aspect into when they're judging MMA.
Maybe here's something else too. And the commentator booth mentioned this too. It seemed that when they were getting in striking exchanges, whatever exchanges were at like kickboxing range, Edson was winning him, obviously because of his amazing kicks. But whenever they were up close and they were in boxing range, Paul Felder was winning those exchanges, right? So who knows? If it's a boxing judge, he's going to favor boxing more than he's going to favor kicks.
Absolutely.
Right? And then you add on top of that the pressure, and it was like if you would have asked me who wants to win this fight, and I'm not taking away anything from Edson. I'm not saying he didn't give any effort or anything, but just objectively, if you looked at the fight and you asked me who wants to win this more,
for sure, Felder.
Paul Felder.
He looked like it.
I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen that from the corner. So in the Duke Rufus, right before the third round.
Oh yeah, at the end of the third round. Yeah.
So Paul's still on the stool, and Duke Rufus comes over to him and like holds his head like a father holds a son's head, right? And he's like giving him a little pep talk, right? He's like, "You can do this" or whatever. And then Paul Felder stood up. He gave him a little slap on the butt, and then on his way out of the octagon, Duke Rufus turns around again and looks at him and goes, "You can do this." Like you could just see it,
like straight out of a movie scene.
Yeah,
where like everything stops and they focus on him.
100%.
Really?
Yeah,
that's a coach.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, great on Paul Felder. I don't think I've seen him fight before, so this is my first time fighting, other than seeing him commentating fights.
Yeah.
So great on him.
Unfortunately, I missed this fight, so I have to go back and do my homework.
So we'll have you watch it.
For sure.
Let us
Absolutely.
Watch it.
But here's my final thoughts on this fight and my biggest takeaway on this fight, right? You look at Paul Felder, and he's 35 years old.
Okay.
Right? And he is just now starting to put it together. And what I mean by that
is we'll see. That still remains to be seen. We can't say that off one fight.
Well, let me explain. What I mean by that is he's finally like in the rankings, and he's fighting relevant fights. Right?
Okay.
He
makes sense.
He just co-mained a huge card like this, right? In Abu Dhabi, right? Okay. So he's 35 years old, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that still don't even know about him, right? So that's what I mean by he's starting to put it together. He's starting to become a person that's in that conversation, in those rankings, right? And the man's 35 years old. He fights this rematch against Edson Barboza and squeaks out that victory, right? I'm sure it's not surprising for someone in that position to be like, no, fuck it. Like, I won. I got my W. Who's next? Yeah. Who's the next person in line that I got to fight to get to a title? Because he even said in his post-fight interviews, like, I don't have to do this anymore. He's like, I can do something else. He goes, I could be a commentator. I could be an actor because he's got an acting background. He's like, there's a million things that I can do. The only reason I'm in here is because I want to fight the best of the best, and I want to fight for a world title, right? And I believe it as a 35-year-old man who's got a daughter and has other opportunities. You don't have to be in that gym 24/7, grinding it out, risking injury, staying away from your family. Like, if you're doing this, it's because you have a goal in mind. Right. Fair?
Yep.
So if he's 35 and he squeaks away at this victory, you do nothing but look forward. Who am I fighting next? Who do I got to fight next, right? He puts a post on his Instagram and says, I understand that this fight was a little controversial. Here's why I think that I won it. But if it's not enough for people and we have to run this back, let's do it. Let's make it a 5-rounder and run it back. That, to me, is huge that he's willing to do that. I have major respect for Paul Felder. That's crazy talk.
I mean, I love to see it.
I mean, I would too. Shoot.
I love to see it. Whatever he wants to do.
I mean, he's 35. At this point. His time's ticking. So.
Right?
I mean, honestly, he really has to go big here.
Yeah.
I mean, especially since he's now becoming relevant in his own ways and stuff. Like, really has to. I mean, I feel like everybody in some way is trying to do the same thing.
Right?
Yeah.
So he really has to stand out.
So here's the thing, though. Unfortunately for him, though, there's not really anybody else that makes sense for him, except for, I think, the only person that you could say, well, if he's not going to rematch Edson Barboza again.
Hold on. Let's take a look at the rankings. This is why I got him pulled up.
Yep. And so here's who I think would make sense for Paul Felder to fight.
Wow.
You ready for this?
Kevin Lee.
Ooh.
Because he's number 7.
Yeah.
Dude.
Kevin Lee's number 8. Paul Felder.
No, but Kevin's fighting at welterweight now.
Mm.
You know?
That's true.
So here's what I think makes sense. We have a fight coming up at 243 between Dan Hooker and Al Iaquinta.
Yeah.
Winner of that fight
look,
makes sense.
I think so. I'm looking at the rankings right now. Felder's at 7.
Yeah.
There's fighters below him that make sense. Pettis, who's coming off a loss.
They're teammates.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Gregor Glipsky, who you've raved about, whatever.
Oh, he called him out.
Did he?
Gregor
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Call him out.
Yeah.
He's ranked number 11th. And then there's Charles Oliveira and Alexander Hernandez.
Yeah.
Or you have Islam, who just fought, Islam, Khabib's teammate, who just
Islam
won.
Makhachev, yeah.
And he even called out the winner of this fighter.
So
this fight.
Iaquinta's ranked what, 5?
6. He's
what's,
fighting
what's Dan Hooker ranked? Is he ranked?
Oh wait, no. Dan Hooker is 15th.
15. All right.
Yeah.
But he's fighting. I personally believe Dan Hooker is better than number 15, but
right.
And he's fighting Al Iaquinta.
Islam, man, he's at 14.
Interesting.
He looks good, but I'm not buying in stock just yet.
No, I mean a lot is to be said because he's so close to Khabib and they have similar fighting styles. But honestly, that I mean, not to start this whole conversation about Khabib all over again, but there's this thing, right, where people look at people that come from Dagestan and that have that crazy wrestling, and you just assume that they're all that amazingly good. But then you realize that these people are just like people from anybody else. There's good ones and there's bad ones, and there's a lot of in between.
Yeah.
And even from all of those murderers that come from Dagestan, right, Khabib still stands out from the collection of murderers that they have over there.
For sure. He's just a different breed. But to piggyback off Felder, it would make sense for him to take the winner of Iaquinta, or if he wins.
Yeah.
Or maybe the loser between Cowboy Cerrone and Justin Gaethje.
Yeah. So,
or maybe run it back with freaking Edson Barboza. I mean, who knows?
I mean, I'd watch that, especially as a 5-rounder. That'd be cool to headline some sort of fight night or something.
You want to move on, or
2 more small things from 241. Number 1, Curtis Blaydes.
Curtis Blaydes, man, I am so impressed by his wrestling.
That dude,
he reminds me of Khabib.
Yeah,
but a heavyweight version of Khabib.
Yeah,
that guy just wants to put you to the ground and maul you and throws nasty elbows.
He did something that Khabib likes to do a lot too, which was he pressured the guy up against the cage, right? Yeah. Wasn't necessarily advancing a whole lot there. Waits for the guy to get up.
Yeah,
like you can see him watching him like work his way to getting back up, and he doesn't fight it immediately. He lets homeboy like basically get back up, and the second homeboy's back up, boom, back to the ground, over and over again.
Yeah.
And to me, here's something else that I've never seen before. He was so close to getting finished after that, at the end of the first round. That
Curtis Blaydes or okay.
Shamil.
Got it.
That when he gets up, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I even made a little joke that the guy was looking around like, wait, you want me to do that again? Like,
yeah.
You want me to go round 2? I don't know about that. And I mean, we found out that he probably shouldn't have been out there.
Yeah.
His nose ended up on the other side of his face.
Oh, man. Did you end up watching that fight?
I didn't.
That guy's nose looked just like Mike Perry's nose after Vicente Luque.
It definitely was all over Twitter.
Imagine that mounted pressure that Khabib starts landing, but at heavyweight.
It's insane. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if more guys look at Khabib and try to imitate his style.
Oh, for sure.
Because I think we're already seeing it with Curtis Blaydes and Tatiana Suarez.
Yeah.
So,
but here's the thing. So the reason I brought up Curtis Blaydes is because he has 1 blemish on his record as of recently, which was
he has 2 losses against Francis.
He has 2 losses against Francis, but to his credit, both of them are a little iffy. I don't necessarily want to use the word controversial, but they're a little iffy. So besides those blemishes, he's looked great.
He absolutely.
Right?
And if it wasn't for those losses, I think he'd be right there in title contention.
So who does he fight next is the question.
So I'm looking at the rankings since I knew you were going to bring that up. So we obviously have Stipe as a champ, number 1 contender, DC. Mm-hmm. Number 2, Francis.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Number 3, Curtis Blaydes, now just moved up a spot. Down a spot for JDS, I'm sorry.
What a fucking fight that is.
Dude. Did they fight before? I felt like they... Okay, so then...
What a fucking fight that is.
And then number 5, Derek Lewis. So Derek Lewis already has a fight scheduled at MSG.
Yeah.
So we know it's not going to be him.
Who's he fighting?
Derek Lewis?
Yeah.
I have to look at the guy's name.
Shit, why did I forget?
I have to look at the guy's name. But I know he's fighting in November at Madison Square Garden.
That's going to bother me.
I
love Derek.
Who does it?
Francis, I don't think is taking a fight if it's not Stipe.
Yeah, and he shouldn't.
Yeah.
What else does he have to prove?
Right. For Curtis Blaydes, I think it would make sense for him to go against JDS at this point.
Oh my god!
What a fight that would be!
That'd be a crazy fight. I like Curtis Blaydes on that fight.
Oh, for sure.
Really?
I do.
For sure.
I just something about his style, man. He looks good. He's looked good against a lot of fighters.
Oh yeah, Derek Lewis is fighting Blagoy Ivanov.
Who?
No, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy is.
So dude, he's a heavyweight. I believe he came from the World Series of Fighting.
Okay.
His first fight in the UFC was versus.
So he's nobody. JDS. Is that what you're trying to say?
He fought JDS.
Okay.
Lost, but he went the distance with JDS.
That's impressive.
And then he fought Tai Tuivasa, who was on this hype train, and beat him too.
Yeah, and he also has a fight scheduled too. I think in MSG.
I think he's
no. He's fighting next month's pay-per-view.
I think he's a good fighter. I just don't think he has like.
You say Curtis Blaydes?
No, Blago Ivanov.
Oh, okay.
I just don't think he has any crazy attributes. Like you look at Curtis Blaydes, right, and he's got amazing wrestling. You look at JDS, he's got amazing boxing. So does Stipe. DC has amazing grappling. You look at Francis, he's got amazing power, right? Like all these. Volkov is tall as fuck, right?
Don't talk about Volkov.
Derek Lewis has crazy power. Like
the fact that you said Volkov and then Derek Lewis right after, just to piss me off. That was the most unfortunate thing I've ever experienced.
Blago Ivanov to me doesn't really have any crazy attributes. I think he gets slept by Derek Lewis.
Okay. Well, let's focus on Curtis Blaydes right now.
By a head kick or a punch?
A punch. Right? But yeah, so I think it's fair to say that that's who our pick would be for the fight is. Okay.
So I think JDS. Well, JDS, that fight makes sense for him right now. If he's going to take another fight before the end of the year.
And then
I like Curtis Blaydes in that fight personally.
Absolutely. I think in striking and wrestling, like if you're going head to head, I think wrestling kind of comes out on top most of the time.
I mean, it's been proven so.
It seems to be the most dominant base.
Yeah.
So very last thing, and it'll be a quick one for 242. I was really interested in seeing Mairbek Taisumov, and he was fighting Carlos Ferreira. Okay,
this is all you because I don't know who they are.
Yeah, which ironically, kind of funny, but Carlos Ferreira's last loss was Dustin Poirier a couple years ago. But anyway, so I was really interested in Taisumov because Taisumov's good, right? So we're watching this fight. I'm expecting Ferreira to lose. The first round is playing out kind of the way that I expected it to play out. Taisumov is landing. And then what happened was, I don't know if it was the heat or whether he just didn't prepare enough, but Taisumov gassed very clearly starting the second round, and Ferreira just fucking turned it on. He looked like Colby Covington or Tony Ferguson in the fifth round. Like this dude was just moving. All I want to say is that was impressive. I didn't really see like anything like crazy from him, crazy stand up or like grappling or anything like that. It's just his pace really interested me, and you could tell that this dude was just having a great time fighting. He reminded me of Johnny Walker almost. That he was enjoying himself, right? So, and that's all. I can't wait to see who he fights next, and I want to watch him fight.
Are they ranked by any chance?
Cesar Ferreira?
Yeah,
I don't think so. Taisumov, I don't think so either.
Okay, so this was an unranked fight?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so that's it for 242. We got fights this weekend.
We got a lot of. Oh yeah, let's talk about the fights this weekend. So
who's fighting this weekend?
So we got Daniel. No, I'm sorry.
Well,
Donald.
I thought you were gonna say DC, and I was like,
imagine DC came out of nowhere. Yeah. Donald Cerrone and Justin
Gaethje.
It's gonna be a terrific fight.
I love Gaethje.
Oh, me too.
What do you love about Justin Gaethje?
Justin Gaethje. No, you guys honestly like just from you guys talking about him and like some of like the amazing things you say about him. Again, I haven't seen most fighters.
Well, so I haven't said amazing things about him. I'm sure it's Kelvin.
Yeah, no, Kelvin's for sure gassed up Justin Gaethje, and I don't know the other dude. So I'm gonna say I love Justin Gaethje.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So we got Cowboy versus Justin, right?
Yeah.
There's a plethora of reasons to favor Cowboy in this fight, right? Justin is a really down to earth, honest guy, and he was talking about him training with Cowboy back in the day, right?
Okay.
And he even admitted that Cowboy dropped him back then, right? So he said that they were training and Cowboy dropped him. Also, Cowboy is a veteran. He's been in the game for a long time. We know that Justin gets hit, and Donald is an exemplary striker, right? So I can see there's a lot of people picking Cowboy, and I can totally see why. But I feel like this is not a good fight for Cowboy.
I don't think so either. I think Justin Gaethje reminds me of Tony Ferguson and how they fight. They love to go to war.
Yes.
And the first 3 fights, was it 3 fights for Justin Gaethje? Or how many fights has he fought in the UFC so far?
I think this will be his 5th fight.
Okay, so the first couple fights, they were wars, right? The guy's just bloodied up, right? Fucking war, basically. And Tony's that type of guy who likes to go to war. I don't think that is a good matchup for Cerrone, who gets cut up very easily.
Yeah. So I'll break it down why I think this is a bad matchup for him. So there's a lot of things that don't exist, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus. Another thing that doesn't exist.
So you say.
Another thing that doesn't exist is a boring Justin Gaethje fight.
Oh,
this
absolutely
dude.
Not.
This dude. Oh my God, he's
you
just
have to see this fight.
He's
Manny.
just.
For sure. I'm not missing it.
He's just
fight.
what you want out of a fighter. Like, obviously, it's not fun to get hit, right? So when you see two fighters that you really want to see exchange, and they're standing in the middle of the octagon and they're just figuring each other out, right? The just fan in you just wants to say, just fucking hit each other already. You know what I mean?
And Justin Gaethje's
not that fighter.
No, he's going to bring it.
Justin Gaethje's coming at you.
Yep.
And he does not care if he gets hit. He gets hit. So there's a stat. Justin Gaethje, I believe, has the highest amount of absorbed strikes per minute in the history of the UFC.
He's just a guy that loves to scrap,
which is amazing,
right?
And we know people like that. Like they don't care. All right, hit me, I'm gonna hit you back.
Justin Gaethje will fight you in a phone booth. Mm-hmm. You know, like, and he's obviously got power, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about kicks earlier with Edson Barboza. Justin Gaethje has horrible fucking kicks. His kicks will he'll kick his way through a fucking car. Like that dude, it's crazy, right? I mean, earlier when we were talking about his fight with Dustin, he was beating Dustin's legs to a pulp. It's gross, right? So the fact that Justin walks forward so much, he can take a hit and he will punish you with his legs, with his hands, right? The way I see Cowboy fight a lot more is he's a veteran, right? Cowboy knows that if he stands there, dissects you, he can pick you apart, right? If you're going to stand at distance with Cowboy, stand there and try to figure each other out, Cowboy's probably going to figure you out first, and he's going to start putting it on you, right? Mm-hmm. But Cowboy's not necessarily a constant pressure fighter.
He's not.
He comes from a kickboxing background. He's comfortable just standing there figuring out and picking his shots.
Right.
And we've seen him not do well with pressure fighters before.
Right.
You watch his fight versus Darren Till, and Darren Till melted Cowboy. Yeah. All he had to do was move forward, not stop throwing, and Cowboy slowly...
Isn't that crazy? Cowboy... Was that a fight at 170?
It was at 170.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And he just melted, right? So, in my opinion, this is that Darren Till fight, but at 155, and with a guy that, in my opinion, lands more damage. To be fair, though,
going against Darren Till, he's technically a 185er.
Yeah, I mean,
so he fought such a heavier guy.
Well, Justin's not a small guy.
I know, but I mean, to compare him to Darren Till, I mean,
he's a 5'11" lightweight. Like, it's a big dude.
But what does he walk around as?
Justin Gaethje?
Yes.
I'd imagine. I think he put this out there somewhere, but if I'm not mistaken, he blows up to like 185.
So Darren Till walks around over 200 easily.
Yeah.
So
especially if you've seen pictures of him right now.
I get the point there that you're trying to make.
Okay, so but long story short, and I'll eat my crow if I have to, right?
The fuck does that mean?
You don't know what eating crow means? Like when
I eat ass.
When you predict something, when you predict something and you feel really strongly about it and you're like confident, like this is gonna happen, and then it doesn't happen, and people were like, "Oh, what now?" Right? Like the fact that you just have to accept it and like, you know, work your way through. Like for example, earlier I had picked Dustin to win, he didn't. Right?
Dustin Poirier.
Dustin, yeah, okay. Dustin. But so I'll eat my crow if I have to. But I think Justin really hurts Cowboy. I think he finishes him, and I think it's like questionable what Cowboy does after this fight.
No. I don't think that's a crazy thought. No.
You had that look on your face.
I don't like that's definitely doable. Like that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Cowboy getting knocked out. So same thing. I agree. I think Justin's gonna win this fight.
Yep.
But I'm gonna be rooting for Cowboy.
Okay.
Because like he's on this journey, and he's been in the UFC for such a long time, and he's right there in the rankings, and he's been wanting to get this title shot, and I'm rooting for him. I want him to win. I want him to see him get another jab at Tony or whoever he needs to get before he gets a title shot. So
the most unfortunate thing though is I haven't been watching UFC for that long.
Okay. Don't feel bad because I just started watching it. This is my second year already.
No, I don't think I'm up on a year yet because this guy kind of put me on, but. My first time seeing Cowboy fight was Bryson Till. So,
Darren Till?
Or Darren Till.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Darren Till, yeah.
And, you know, that's happened to most of the fighters that you guys talk really highly about. I just see one of their worst fights ever. Like Francis Ngannou, he is garbage to me.
just to give you all an idea.
That's not because me and him talked about
I probably hyped the fight between Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou more than I've hyped anything in my entire life.
Shit show.
But the craziest thing was, I think that was one of my first pay-per-views I've ever watched.
Yeah.
and like going there and then everybody getting hyped for that fight and then them throwing like
nothing. They didn't throw anything, bro. It looked like they didn't want to fight.
Derek Lewis throwing head kicks. And then I'm like, oh, this is the UFC. Okay, cool. Yeah,
right.
This is what I'm getting into.
Right.
But I've slowly eaten my words. But for that part, I got Gaethje for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the poster's sick as shit.
Oh the poster looks nice. Yeah.
So there's a lot of other stuff like that I want to get deep into on this card, but for the sake of time and stuff, we won't. But a couple things to just mention. We have a fight between Glover Teixeira and Nikita Krylov. I mean, no disrespect to Glover, but the guy is like 39, something like that. Hasn't really given like crazy good performances. He has a finish recently, to his credit, but I think it's safe to say that he's on his way out. And Nikita Krylov, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I'll double check it, but I'm pretty sure that this man, every single fight that he has ever been in has been a finish, whether he won or lost that fight. How do you not want to watch a guy like that fight? The guy's had like 20-something professional fights. Not one of those has gone to decision. Think about that for a second.
You're saying win or loss.
Win or loss.
Interesting.
Somebody got subbed or knocked out.
That's crazy.
Yes. And he came back to the UFC after, hiatus. And he got finished by Misha Serkinov, if I'm not mistaken. Then he goes to fight Ovin St. Preux, who's a tough dude.
OSP?
Yep.
He's killer.
OSP.
And he beat OSP with his own submission. He Von Flued OSP.
That's badass.
That's badass. So the fact that Glover's on his way out and this dude has finished every fight or been finished in every fight, I have to watch this fight. And it's the co-main on this. I think it's going to be a great fight.
Okay.
Also, so a theme that we've had on this show is that we'll talk about a fight that is kind of being overlooked because there's more hype about other fights, but they're fights that need to be paid attention to, right? So one of the fights that comes to mind was Jeff Neal versus Nico Price. We talked about that one being like a sleeper, right? My sleeper for this card is Uriah Hall versus Antonio Carlos Jr. I think that this is going to be a sick-ass fight because we all know what Uriah Hall can do on the feet, and we all know what Antonio Carlos can do on the ground. And I'm so interested in seeing what kind of blend of chaos from those two worlds we get out of this fight. I don't think either of these two dudes are boring fighters. Both of them need a win right now. I think it's going to be a great, great fight.
I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for that fight.
Absolutely.
Also, Todd Duffy, shout out to Duffman. He makes his return after 4 years onto this card. I feel really bad for this guy. He's a heavyweight. Was on he was fighting a couple of good fights, and then this poor bastard has literally been one injury after another.
Yeah.
He had one really horrible injury that took like a year's worth of rehabilitation. Finally got ready. He gets booked for a fight, gets injured. Rehabs for like 6 months, gets booked for another fight, got injured, and this has literally been happening for 4 years. He makes his return this weekend.
We'll see. We'll see how he comes back on.
And then Misha Serkinov versus Jimmy Crute wraps up that division. I think Misha Serkinov needs a fight to show that he still belongs in the division, and Jimmy Crute is on his way up. He has, in my opinion, shows that he belongs in the division, but we'll see exactly where he belongs after this fight. So excited to see that also. So that covers last weekend's card, this upcoming weekend's card, and now we could just talk about some more bullshit that's going on around.
Well, I think
UFC.
so. Then let's talk about the biggest news and the Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal.
Oh my!
I think that's the fight that blew everyone's mind when it got announced.
Yeah,
that came out of left field.
Yeah.
So what are you expecting from this fight? Give me your thoughts.
Love Nate Diaz.
Okay, you love
Dude
Nate
signed
Diaz.
My shoe. Fun fact.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
I don't know if I have that picture.
You want to show it off?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, show it off.
I don't know.
Here, we'll just keep talking, I guess.
Yeah.
Until he shows it off.
Look at that.
That's badass.
Could you take it off and then we can put it on the thing in there? I don't have I'll post some pictures of while we were there, so you guys can see some close-ups. But
I don't know how.
Shout out to Nate Diaz.
Yeah. Well, his team. But yes, Nate Diaz. Shout out to Nate Diaz. There's this shoe there. Autograph. Nate Diaz, 209.
Look at that beauty.
Appreciate it, bro. Maybe you can sponsor this podcast since we're marketing you, motherfucker.
Oh, Game Up, CBD, Nate Diaz, hit us up, man.
Yes.
We're making a banner soon. We'd love to have that on here.
Yes.
He's such a good guy.
So yeah, no. What were you saying about your thoughts on this fight?
Huge Nate Diaz fan.
Okay.
But Masvidal was an absolute monster.
Yeah.
So
how excited are you for this fight?
I'm super excited. it's a good idea for a fight, but I think Masvidal is just gonna run through.
Woo! Okay, so I don't think it's gonna be that easy for Masvidal. First of all, I fucking love this fight.
Yeah,
I love this fight. You got two guys who love to scrap, right? The East Coast goon and the West Coast gangster.
Hell yeah.
Like, how can you not want to see that fight? When that fight got announced, I sent a comment on Instagram. Here's all my money, bro. Here's all my fucking money. And the fact that it's main eventing Madison Square Garden, 5 fucking rounds.
Thank God.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
One of the best
it's going to be one of the best fights of the year. I'm calling it right now.
Oh, it has to be.
It's going to be entertaining, a scrap, a fight that everybody wants to see.
We've had some amazing fights this year.
We have.
It's gonna be
that one is on my, like, I would, here's all my money, bro. Here's all my money.
Unless Masvidal just pulls something out of his ass and just completely destroys him first round.
Well, let me finish. I don't think it's going to be a quick knockout.
Okay.
I think you're going to see two guys who are durable and who are going to get after each other right away. If there is a KO, I think we're going to see it around round
when they get tired,
4.
Gassed out.
Yeah.
I think it's late. I don't see a quick. I definitely don't see a knee like we saw against Ben Askren.
No. Nate Diaz is way too good. For that.
But if there is a knockout, I think around round 4 or 5 is when it's gonna likely happen.
And it would have to be a TKO.
I'm gonna be.
Personally, I'm hoping that this fight goes the distance.
I think I'm calling second round TKO. Masvidal.
Right. I'm gonna hold off my prediction until we get closer to it and we do our preview.
Yeah.
But this is just my initial thoughts on the fight. Thank you.
September 11th.
This fight is
September 11th. 8:57.
I feel like you want to say a lot.
In our last episode, we said if you're gonna give us Nate versus George,
it has to be Jorge, 5 rounds.
Give it. Yeah. It's got to be 5 rounds or go.
Felt like yourself, Dana was literally watching our podcast.
Yeah, for sure. So here's the way I see this fight going down. So obviously, Nate consumes people with his pressure. Right? Mm-hmm. Very similar to Colby. He doesn't throw 100% when he's throwing strikes. He's just trying to touch you. He's just trying. I mean, it's the way he's always done it.
Yeah.
He's not got he doesn't have KO power. He's just annoying the shit out of you, hitting you over and over and over and over again, like Max Holloway. That type of pressure fighting. George throws with more evil intentions than Nate does. Right? Not exclusively. Jorge will stand in there, kickbox. But he'll pick his shots, and when he picks his shots, he's going for the kill.
Right.
He's going for the off button. So here's the tug of war in my mind when it comes down to this fight. I feel like if Jorge is going to win it, it's going to have to be in the first 3 rounds. Because that's when they're going to be exchanging. That's when he's going to be going for the op switch. And if he lands it, that's how he wins this fight.
Right.
If it gets into the 4th and 5th round, I haven't seen... I mean, the last time I saw... The last 5-round fight that I can remember from Jorge, no, that wasn't a 5-rounder. That was a 3-rounder versus Wonder Boy. I'm pretty sure it was a 3-rounder.
I think you're right though. I think it was
3. But anyway, what I was trying to get at is I haven't really seen performances where he's excelling in the 4th and 5th from Jorge, and we have seen that from Nate. So at some point, if it gets into the 4th and 5th, Jorge is gonna get withered, overwhelmed, and Nate will win a decision the same way that he beat Anthony Pettis.
Right.
But that's the X factor in this fight.
Right.
Is that Jorge goes for the off button.
Yeah.
He's trying to shut your lights off.
Out of respect, let's not try to break down the fight too early.
Yeah.
What I want to do though is just to ask what does this fight mean for that division right now? Because that's a big fight to make right now, and these guys are right there in title contentions.
I think Masvidal takes it. He's at the top.
Okay, so if Masvidal takes this, do you feel like he is deserving of the title shot next?
Absolutely.
Okay, what do you think, Kelvin?
I mean, there's a difference between what I want to happen, what I think should happen,
and what you think
and what I think will happen.
Okay.
So, I agree with Manny. I think the winner of this fight is more Jorge than Nate, if I'm honest, just because of the work that's been done. But if Jorge wins this fight, I think
that's going to get him the title shot. I really feel that way.
Yeah.
I see it in Masvidal. He's a special kind of fight. He has that.
So it's interesting because, I mean, Jorge is now exploding on the scene.
Yes.
He's been in the game for a while. And I remember seeing him on the backyard fights, with Kimbo Slice back in the day.
That was crazy.
And he's been in the game for a while, and he's just exploring the scene, which is great for him.
Right.
Now he's making a lot of money. But I think this fight is such a big fight for the welterweight division that the winner of this fight I can easily see in title contention.
Here's the problem, though. There's a jam in this division, which I don't understand why.
Kamaru and Colby.
And listen, there's a lot of people listening to this. Everyone has already picked somebody to blame. Everybody. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's. I've been on MMA Twitter, and everyone seems to have picked a villain in this situation. I unfortunately do not feel that way. I don't know what the holdup is, so I'm not going to start pointing fingers. Right. All we know is that Kamaru has the belt. Kamaru says he wants to fight.
Correct.
Colby is the most obvious person for him to fight. He says he wants to fight.
What hasn't happened yet?
Jorge is on the outside. Before this fight happened with Nate, he said he wanted Kamaru.
Right.
Leon Edwards, who's on an 8-fight win streak and is dominating everybody he fights, including top-level competition, says he wants it. You got 4 dudes all up at the top of the division, all with at least a fraction of a stake at the title. Why the fuck don't we have a fight yet? What is the holdup? This fight was supposed to headline MSG.
Correct.
What's going on? And the thing is, again, like I mentioned earlier, everyone's already picked a villain. I don't know how people can be so confident picking somebody to point fingers at. But you'd have to wonder though, like, what the fuck is going on?
It has to come down to money.
That's right.
That's what it has to come down to.
Yeah.
Because like we were talking about, like, why isn't Colby Covington? Like, Colby Covington is saying one thing, that the UFC is trying to lowball him as far as the money that they're offering him.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why he hasn't accepted.
Right.
And then they're like, the UFC are like, okay, well, if you're not going to take the fight, then we'll offer it to Jorge.
Yep.
Then there was back and forth there.
Yep.
And eventually that broke down.
Right.
Then they're like, okay, well then, Jorge, would you want to fight Nate Diaz? The money made sense for both of them. The fight happened. So now we have Kamaru and Colby Covington.
Yep.
That's the fight that needs to happen.
It is.
I don't know why it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
It's more likely going to happen in the December card at the end of the year. But to answer your question, what the fuck's going on? I think the money is why it hasn't happened yet.
I'm going to lay this down. And this, for those of you who will continue watching this podcast, this will be a repeating theme, is that I try my hardest to be as unbiased and as objective as possible, almost like a journalist would, right? So I don't get caught up in the same things that MMA Twitter gets caught up. And what I mean by that is just hating people for their personalities, or like how people hate Henry Cejudo because he's cringe, or they hate Colby, or they hate Colby because of his whole shtick. I'm not that dude, right? I try to look at things objectively.
Dude.
So
I'm on that boat.
So here's the thing. The reason I say that is because I'm a fan of Colby. I'm not a fan of his personality. I don't dig the shtick. Okay. But as a fighter, right?
He's a great fighter.
He's a great fighter.
I can't deny that.
And that's all I'm looking at is as a fighter, right? So I'm a big fan of Colby. I think he deserves the next title shot.
For sure.
I think he deserves to be compensated, right? I think that it's important to note that he did win that interim belt that eventually got stripped from him.
Okay.
However, and here's the thing, and I also understand why Colby's doing all this that he's doing.
He just wants to make more money.
Before that, let's be honest here, guys. I mean, we created this before the Damian Maia fight, right? Which is the fight where afterwards he got on the mic and started talking shit about Brazilians. Yeah. Before that fight, no one gave a flying fuck about Colby Covington.
Right.
Who was doing what he's doing now. He was putting on great performances with high pressure, high cardio. But his personality, I mean, when you watch interviews of him before his shtick, he was just a normal dude. Like, you interviewed him and he was just a normal dude. You could tell he was just working hard, right? Didn't really make a lot of noise, wasn't talking shit, wasn't doing any of that. No one gave a fuck about him. He started doing all this shtick, and now, look, we were at 241. We were at the Honda Center, and there are amazing fights going on in front of us, and between every fight, all the entire arena wanted to do was talk shit on Colby and yell at Colby, right? So clearly he's a draw, right? So I understand that Colby, after all this work that he's put in the cage and outside, building this persona, right? I understand that he wants to get compensated. However, he's bringing up the fact that the UFC gave him like a lowball offer and it was a take it or leave it or whatever, and that he didn't take it because he feels like he should be compensated more. He has a belt. He should be getting pay-per-view points or yada, yada, yada.
He doesn't have a belt anymore. He needs to stop making that argument.
Exactly. Here's the thing. He never lost it right? Just the same way that Tony never lost it. But at the end of the day, he is not the interim champion anymore.
Nope.
And look at, you took a look at the payout for this last fight. We were talking about earlier that Dustin had one of the hardest roads to a title ever. Look at the damage that he had to take, the wars that he was in to get into that fight. He's fighting in Abu Dhabi, right, versus Khabib. And his payout was ridiculous. Khabib got paid $6 million. Dustin got paid $290,000. For that big of a title fight,
wow, I didn't know that.
Dustin should be able to get paid more than that.
Oh, absolutely.
So what I'm saying is, if Dustin is going to take that kind of money for that kind of fight, to me, there's no excuse.
Right.
If this is what you've been working for, you've been working on this persona, you've been working on these fights, and then the UFC comes at you, right? You've been that close to getting the title shot. You get overlooked. Kamaru gets the title shot over you, right? All of these fucking things have happened. If the UFC comes at me with a lowball offer and says, take it or leave it, you take it. You take the fucking fight, you win the fight, and then you start making money when you're the champion. You don't sit there with your pride, not take it, and then complain about it. Just fucking take the fight, right? And then we go from there. But at the same time, we were talking about this earlier, that this is Casual Talk MMA. I'm a casual here, and I'm telling a grown man who gets punched in the face for a living to get paid less, right? Which there's that also. But, you got to take the fight.
Right. I agree. He needs to take the fight. How he takes the fight, that's his business, man. I'm not going to tell another man, don't do this, don't do that, right? They're in the fight game, we're not. We're on the outside looking in.
If he's worried about money, right? Like, if he's worried about money, we already had the Trumps that went to his last fight. And could you fucking imagine if he becomes the actual champion at MSG with that amount of publicity? I guarantee you, even Donald Trump gets involved, right? And Donald Trump supporters out of nowhere just start fucking hooking him up with endorsement deals and blah, 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 blah. The money's coming, bro. Take the fucking fight.
I don't know.
Could it be more of an excuse?
Maybe he was asking for more. Maybe he was asking to earn more money than Kamaru.
Which, why the fuck?
We don't know the details.
We don't.
The only thing we know is a fight hasn't happened.
Right.
That's all we know. And it's a shame.
There's a lot of potential.
Because so many people are excited for that fight. I'm excited for that fight.
That's a great fight.
Yeah. Because right now that division is at a standstill until there's a championship fight
We just got over this nightmare in the lightweight division, right?
Yeah. Now it's starting to be clearer now.
Yeah. It's starting to be clear now. Let's not do this all over again with welterweight. Like, there's too many good fighters at welterweight for us to have a fucking logjam.
For sure.
Like that.
And then also there's a lot of egos involved.
That's true.
With the UFC, with Dana and the fighters. So
and now you throw Nate Diaz into the mix at
welterweight. Now you throw Nate Diaz, and that's
God.
where I was getting at with where does this fight mean for the welterweight division with Jorge and Nate Diaz. If Nate Diaz beats Jorge, we know he's going to move up in the rankings even more. Does he get a title shot? Does he want a title shot? Does he just keep the BMF belt and say, fuck everybody else? This is my belt? I don't know, bro. There's this. I feel like it's crazy.
Nate wants the belt. If he wins, he's going to get that.
I don't, like I told him, I told you on the last podcast, I don't think Nate cares for the championship belt.
No.
He can give a shit.
He said it himself.
He doesn't care.
He said it himself. He said the reason he took that Anthony Pettis fight was because he's not necessarily interested in the title. He just wants to fight fights that are interesting to him.
Yeah.
Dudes that he respects, dudes that have been in the game for a while. Fights like Jorge Masvidal.
Right. So we know then if Jorge fights, he wants the title shot. And we know if Nate Diaz wins, it's maybe Conor.
Well, it's clear that it's more important to Nate to win fights that are important to him than fighting for the belt.
Yeah.
Because he's never even mentioned Kamaru Usman's name.
Or Colby. When someone asked him about Colby, he was like, who is that guy? Yeah. What division is he in? I'm like, what?
So clearly he's not here to like work his way up the rankings and like, no, he's here to fight.
He's here to fight,
that the fans want to see, and that's it.
And I love that about him.
Me too.
I mean, when we went to the open workouts, like,
yeah, dude, so many,
crazy,
dude. Oh yeah,
that arena on Saturday night was,
I couldn't imagine,
just insane for Nate Diaz.
I couldn't imagine, like, I've never met anybody that didn't like him.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's not pushing like titles either, he's just fighting.
Yeah,
right.
Like, that's a good look.
I mean, in his mind, he is a champion.
So here's the. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, he did.
And in his mind, he is a champion. He doesn't care what people think.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. When we were sitting there, at 241, and he got into and Joe Rogan came to interview him after the fight, he gets on the mic and goes, and with this belt, I was like, what? I was like, what the fuck is he talking about?
The BMF belt, bro.
And then
disrespect that, man.
So last thing on that little topic, though, we just spent these last couple of minutes talking about Kamaru, Jorge, and Colby, right? Where does that leave Leon?
I knew you were going to ask that.
So I saw
Leon still has something to prove.
He does. But here's the thing. Someone threw this out there, and I hadn't thought of this, and it was random, but it makes sense to me, and I would love to see it. How about Leon Edwards versus Tyron Woodley?
Yes, I think I told you that on the last podcast. Jeez. Yeah, that's a great fight for him.
Yep.
Woodley's still number 1, ranked number 1.
Is he really?
Yes. Number 2 is Colby.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a great fight for him.
That'd
if he wants
amazing.
to earn his title shot, that's his fight right there.
Now he's for sure in the conversation without a doubt.
And what's going on with freaking Woodley? Like, I haven't heard anything from Woodley.
He's sitting.
He's just sitting duck right now, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's not injured.
No, he's not.
I think
what's going on with him right now?
Could have been complacent.
Because he had a fight scheduled against Robbie Lawler, and that eventually didn't go through.
Right, and then it'll be in Colby that took that fight.
So that's a great fight for him. Leon's number 4. Woodley 1.
I think it makes sense, especially because, Tyron, the guy's 37, 36, 37.
Mm-hmm.
And he expressed that he wants to fight for the title again. So obviously he's not going backwards, right? So he has to fight somebody that's in the mix that would be worthy of him getting a title shot after he defeats him. I think Leon is the only one that makes any sense because of everybody else who's tied up and all that.
Just to quickly mention, I just saw the pound for pound rankings.
Okay.
And guess who moved up 2 spots? Your boy Conor McGregor.
You moved up 2 spots?
He moved up 2 spots.
Okay, listen
He's
to me.
number 11.
Listen to me very carefully. Earlier I was talking about how I'm unbiased, right? This applies to Conor also.
Okay.
Conor, people love hating and discrediting Conor. They love it. It's like a sport, right? I'm not that guy. I love Conor. However, how the fuck does that make any sense? Why is Conor moving up 2 spots on the pound for pound list? That makes zero sense.
Well, because you have a guy that dropped 5 spots.
Who dropped 5 spots?
Dustin Poirier.
Okay.
So, theoretically, a guy moves up.
So you're telling me that Conor loses to Khabib, and then Dustin loses to Khabib, and Dustin and Conor switch places?
According to the writers, yeah.
Interesting. So the 2 guys that Khabib just beat back to back swap places.
Apparently.
That's retarded.
See, your thing is you don't want Conor on the rankings.
At bottom line level, I don't think he's on the rankings. However, if he's gonna be on the rankings, fine, whatever. But to move him up, somebody explain that to me. How does that make any sense?
Well, he didn't move up because he fought. He moved up because someone went down.
So then everybody else moved up 2 spots.
Yes.
Also? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Robert Whittaker moved up.
I thought they had physically
No.
You confused me.
Yeah.
So you have 4 fighters, and then Dustin went down, and then everyone just moved up.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was confused when you said that.
Yeah.
No.
So Dustin moved down. Conor didn't really move up. He moved up by default.
Wait, hold up.
Everyone shifted up.
Yes.
You don't think Conor should be on the pound for pound rank?
I don't.
I think he should be. His eyes twitch.
You think a guy with 1 victory in the last 4 years deserves to be on the pound for pound list? A guy who's fought 1 time in the last 3 years deserves to be on the pound for pound list?
Yeah.
Well, it's not about that though. The pound per pound list is not. It doesn't rate how active you are. It rates at how good you are.
Then why isn't then anybody who's ever fought ever should be on the pound for pound list?
What do you mean?
No.
Because those guys haven't beat the quality guys that Conor's beat. That's the difference. Name me a guy.
That what?
So you're saying Conor shouldn't be there because he's not active?
I'm saying this is to measure who currently the best fighters are, right?
Okay.
How do we know where he ranks in top current fighters if we're not seeing him fight, and when we do see him fight?
Okay, so we're basing it off 2 fights, right? The last 2 fights.
That's what we have to work with.
Okay, so 2 fights. He lost against Khabib, and then he starched Eddie Alvarez.
Yes.
And then before that, who did he beat? Nate Diaz.
Yes.
Nate, he came out.
Okay. You're telling me that's not good enough for him to still be in a high level?
If that had happened,
we're not looking at times right here.
But it has to matter.
It doesn't have to matter.
Yes, it does, because every single person on the pound for pound list has a significant victory within the last 12 months. Every single person on that list. I'm going to say that one more time. Every single person on that list has a significant victory in the last 12 months.
Okay. But if you've been gone for 2-3 years...
How do we know how good you are?
We don't know that.
Then how are you on the list?
We're basing it off his last performance of the last 2 fights.
Forever ago, and everybody...
It was 10 months ago.
And then before that?
Okay, fine. 2 years ago. But that doesn't mean anything.
He does have a fight in the last 12 years. Or 12 months.
And he lost. Decisively. No?
So you would rather see Woodley be above Conor?
No.
Okay,
not
then.
Woodley.
So you would rather see Dustin Poirier above Conor?
Yes.
You'd rather see Robert Whittaker above Conor?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think the amount of time you've been gone matters.
I think it does.
I don't think so.
Because if you're gonna say that, then you just open it up for everything. You can have people that haven't fought in 10 years on the pound for pound list.
No, that doesn't make sense.
Why not?
Name me an example.
If time doesn't matter, then why not?
Time doesn't matter, but the people. Okay, GSP's not fighting no more. He's not. He's retired.
That's what I'm saying.
So that's not a good example.
Connor's still active.
He's active now.
He's relevant.
He's active now.
He's still relevant.
He's active now.
So
he hasn't fought in 10 months. You just said guys haven't fought in 12 months.
My counter argument to you is people on that pound for pound list are still relevant.
Connor's still relevant.
So it's a relevancy list.
No, it's not. This is what it's based on. It's based on. Okay, when I view pound for pound, I think who is like a top fighter right now. Conor to me is a top fighter.
Absolutely.
That's what it's based on.
Yeah, but. And I, for what it's worth...
Isn't that what pound for pound means?
Listen. For what it's worth, I agree with you. I also think that Conor is a top fighter, right? But...
He can be gone 4 or 5 years. If he comes back, he's still top of his game.
Exactly. I think no matter how long he's gone...
That guy's just too good.
At least for like 5 years.
That guy was gone for 2 years, comes back...
You would be comfortable with him being gone for 5 years.
And still considering him as one of the best strikers, yes.
If he's still in the game and then decides to come back, I wouldn't be mad on the pound for pound.
So I'm saying Conor's gone for 3 years. He comes back.
Technically, Conor's been gone for 2 years. So let's not make it 4 or 5 years. Let's not compare that. He's been gone for 2 years.
So he's gone for he comes back. I still have Conor.
Yeah.
But to my credit, everything that we've been talking about Conor, right? What have we been saying? What Conor are we getting? What's Conor gonna look like?
We're gonna find out
right
at the end of this year.
That's where I'm standing. That we'll see later this year. If it's gonna be a we'll see, then
I can tell you right now, Kelvin, whatever Conor we get, it's still gonna be better than a lot of guys right now.
Well,
I will put my money on that now.
I'm not saying I wouldn't.
But then again, we see a terrible Conor. Then
if I see a Conor like I've never seen before, and he looks just. Awful. Like just a guy that's the shot of himself.
Yeah, he's rich.
And then I'd agree with you. Take him off the pound for pound list because he's not that good to be considered a pound for pound. But right now, I still feel like he still has it.
From the evidence we have, and I'm very confident in Conor coming back and dominating.
Would you be surprised if Conor comes back and starches Dustin Poirier?
No.
The guy still has it.
He's relevant.
The guy still has it. Well, not only relevant, but he's still on top of his game.
Absolutely.
He's still a top level fighter.
I'm telling you,
who can easily win that belt back.
I know for a fact that dude's still training.
Huh?
He tried to fly me out to Ireland to come train with him, but it's like.
Yeah, how'd that go?
I had a baseball game.
I will say though, I think Israel Adesanya should be higher than Conor, because Israel is 14th.
Yeah, and look,
so that I do believe.
Israel's what?
Israel's 14th. Okay. Connor's 11th.
For
pound for pound rankings. But
that's not a terrible spot for him to be in, honestly. 11th.
Right. Okay, so what else you got on the agenda?
I think that pretty much does it.
There anything else? Any fights? We just saw Vicente Luque got an announced for a fight against Wonderboy Thompson. That's a great fucking fight.
Man, the week that we do the MSG card is gonna be fun.
It's gonna be a lot of shit to talk about. So that card looks like it's gonna be stacked.
Yep.
I'm very excited for these last 2 cards because it looks like this MSG card, no title fights, but fights you really want to see.
Yeah.
And then it seems like this last card in December is gonna be filled with title fights.
Yep.
It looks like to me.
End the year.
Because I say that because is it Nunez defending her title on that card?
She is, yeah.
Okay, so they have one title fight.
Yeah.
we're going to hope to God that we get the welterweight title fight.
Yep.
And then we were talking about Jon Jones and what is he teasing.
205 makes sense.
So you may have 3 title defenses on that card.
It also makes sense to have a heavyweight championship fight before the end of the year.
Yeah, depending on what DC wants to do.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that Jon Jones.
Lightweight?
Yeah.
We could see by the end of the year.
Yep.
I mean,
yep.
we know we're not getting flyweight or bantamweight by the end of the year.
No.
Unless we see a bantamweight.
We may get a lightweight.
Title.
We may get a lightweight title defense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It just got announced. Oh, wait, never mind. Let me take that back. I don't think it's been officially announced, but they're trying to get Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski for 245.
So then that could be 4 title fights in the end of the year, bro.
Nuts.
Big cards coming up, bro. Big cards. Let's talk about Jon Jones real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Oh, that's right.
Do you follow Jon Jones at all?
On Twitter?
Not that much.
Do you like Jon Jones?
I love Jon Jones.
Okay.
That's why I don't follow him on Twitter.
So Jon Jones. Jon Jones sent a tweet, something saying he's teasing.
Says like buckle your seatbelts.
A big fight announcement is coming up, and me and Kelvin were talking. Okay, so what fight could he be talking about to defend his lightweight title? We literally looked at the rankings, and here I'm gonna name the rankings again for the viewers. Number 1, I don't know why, but DC still ranked number 1 in light heavyweight. Okay. He's not, obviously, he's not gonna fight in light heavyweight. Number 2, Thiago Santos just lost to Jon Jones.
He's not fighting until mid next year.
I don't.
Number 3, Anthony Smith. I don't see Jon Jones fighting him. 4, Dominic Reyes, who just has a fight scheduled with MSG. Yep, Chris Weidman. Number 5, Jan Blachowicz, who's fighting Jacare, what just got announced. Number 6, Alexander Gustafsson. Yeah, we don't know what to do with him.
He says he wants to fight Luke Rockhold.
Right. But can we agree we don't see him fighting Jon Jones?
No.
We're at number 7 now, Corey Anderson, who's fighting
Johnny Walker.
7, Volkan Ozdemir.
Yeah.
9, Glover Teixeira.
Mm-hmm.
I can keep going down the list, but at that point, can we agree it wouldn't make sense for Jon Jones? Who is Jon Jones talking about?
Right, because
there is no fight right now that's available or that would make sense for Jon Jones at light heavyweight.
And if DC is ever fighting again, it's probably going to be Stipe again, right? So
I would agree. That's
probably not going to happen. Also, if hypothetically, if DC says, you know what, I'm done with the Stipe thing,
mm-hmm.
I want to stamp off my career with one more fight versus Jon Jones,
I would be shocked.
Not only would I be shocked, I don't think it gets announced this early.
No,
I think we get that announcement in like.
Yeah, that
October.
fight wouldn't happen. Yeah.
You know, so
I think, and I planned this out.
Yep.
The only thing that I think he's leaning towards and teasing us is the Brock Lesnar Jon Jones heavyweight fight.
Oh my God,
that's like he says big on that tweet.
Yep.
That's the fight that to me screams big.
Yes. Now,
wait, are F5s legal?
Here's the thing that I pointed out though. Jon Jones has a history of giving us blue balls.
Yes, I agree.
Being a dickhead.
I agree.
Not that long ago, he was like, "Oh, are you guys ready to see me fight Stipe or whatever?" And then that didn't happen. And when they confronted him and asked him about it,
he was just joking about it.
He basically just said like, "Yeah, I was just being a dickhead." So he could just be being a dickhead.
What do you think he has under his sleeve? Like, what do you think he's teasing right now?
I mean, I don't want to give us too much credit, but we've covered. I mean,
we cover the whole division, like, and there's nothing there.
I don't even think there's something where like you could be like, well, that's probably
right,
it, or that's maybe it, right? The fact that it's literally absolutely nothing makes me think that he's just being a dickhead.
So you think he's just trolling everyone?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I hope not.
I really want to side with Michael on this, and that would be
the Brock Lesnar. Yeah.
Nuts.
That would be nuts.
But there's two things. I'll tell you why I wouldn't like that fight right off the bat.
Okay.
Because I'd be upset with both guys. DC has called out Jon Jones to go up to heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
And Jon Jones said no. So if you're going to tell me you're going to say no to fighting DC, which would be a better fight, and yes to Brock Lesnar, that's a bitch move.
Yeah, that's interesting to me because he called out Brock Lesnar when he beat DC in Anaheim.
Yes.
Was it 2 years ago?
Yes.
That's interesting to me.
And number 2, same thing with Brock Lesnar. He was going to fucking jump Stipe for the title shot versus DC, right? We held up that fight for fucking ever waiting for him to decide.
Yeah.
He eventually says, no, I don't want it. And all of a sudden you're going to be like, no, I do want it now, but it's versus Jon Jones instead of DC. I wouldn't like that from either guy.
Yeah.
Not saying I wouldn't watch that fight.
What if he convinced somebody to drop?
I don't know. So what tells me that this fight seems like it could happen is the money that these guys are going to make and the UFC is going to make off this fight. Because Brock Lesnar's a big draw. We know that.
Oh, my God. What if they do, like, Brock Lesnar versus Jon Jones and the Stipe DC
at a triple threat match?
No. the DC Stipe rematch, and then winner fights winner.
You said Stipe against who? Hold on.
Stipe versus DC3.
Okay.
And Jon Jones versus Brock Lesnar on the same card, and winner fights winner.
That would be insane.
How unrealistic is Jon Jones and Stipe?
Very unrealistic because it makes more for Stipe. Like I think if you're talking about what fight makes sense for each individual person, it's different, right? Like if you're talking about what fight makes most sense for DC, it's either Stipe or Jon Jones, right? But if you're talking about Stipe, what makes more sense for Stipe? If it's not going to be DC, it's
Brock Lesnar.
I know what he's going to say.
Francis.
Yeah, I know what he's going to say. I know what he's going to say. I don't like that fight.
You don't like Stipe versus Francis?
Me and you talked about this on our last podcast. I don't like that fight.
I think Francis gets run.
By Stipe?
I think so too. I think he gets run over. Well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. But okay, DC. What makes sense for him, I think, would be Stipe.
Yep.
Because I don't envision him wanting to move down right now to light heavyweight, knowing that he just lost his title at heavyweight.
We're like, are we in agreement that like we're coming to an end of like DC's legacy? So like
his legacy, or
you mean his fight career?
His fight career.
Yeah,
yeah, it's coming to an end.
So like any one of these decisions he makes could be the last decision.
It could be, yes.
Well, we're also. I mean, earlier when I was talking about the winner versus winner thing, and then I mentioned Francis, right? So he'd get fucked. But that's besides the point, because if DC fights ever again at all,
right,
we know that he's already pretty much stated that it's only going to be one more, and that's it.
DC, yeah.
Yeah, because he said he wanted to retire March of this year, right? So he already extended it. I'm sure he was confident he was going to win that fight and then run off into the sunset.
I think he needs to prove himself against Jon Jones.
Who does?
DC.
But at light heavyweight or at heavyweight?
I think it's going to have to be at light heavyweight.
Interesting.
I think Jon Jones is too much of a pussy to go up.
He is.
Well,
and this coming from two Jon Jones fans.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But I feel like, again, just like Conor, DC's really proud of who he is.
100%.
And he really got bitched by Jon Jones.
Also, I think, and I hate shitting on Stipe, because this is kind of a backhand to Stipe.
Stipe wins a third time.
No, I don't. I think DC's still good enough to beat him.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So yes, I'm gonna favor DC, but anything can happen.
Yep,
absolutely. But
so I wouldn't be surprised if DC wins the trilogy.
If after the end of the third round, I was like, here we go to a DC decision win, who would have thought Stipe was gonna just make a fucking adjustment like that?
But to be fair, DC has a history of doing that, right? Like, look at the Jon Jones 2 fight. He was dominant. Like, could we agree? He was dominating that fight, and then he got caught with a leg kick, and that changed the course of that fight.
That fight still breaks my heart because he was fighting Jon Jones.
He was winning that fight in my eyes.
About as good as you can possibly fight Jon Jones.
And when he landed that leg kick, that changed that fight, and that's all she wrote. And by the way, that fight against Jon Jones, DC, that was the first pay-per-view I watched. Oh, really? That got me into it. So, yeah, I'm still fairly new.
That's a good.
I feel like Francis is going to be left out here.
Absolutely. I really want.
I think Stipe is going to end up fighting either DC or Jon Jones.
Here's the thing. Look, here's the thing. After the way he lost to Stipe, and with all the shenanigans going on between DC and Stipe, if they want to make Francis fight one more time, I honestly don't have a problem with that. Also, how's that going to hurt him? He's coming off 3 first-round knockouts, right? That's not a bad thing for Francis if he has to fight one more time. The only thing for me is, who would he fight, though? He already beat Curtis. He beat JDS.
That's true. That's very true.
And there's no, I mean...
Or he just waits it out and see the guys handle their business, and then
I think that's
whatever's left over.
You know what'd be sick? And I don't know if anybody's talked about this on any podcast, or I haven't seen this anywhere on MMA Twitter. People seem to have forgotten. Fabrizio Verdum. I'm not sure when his suspension is. I'm not sure when his suspension is over.
He's still suspended for another year.
Another year, right?
I think so.
Man, if he came back, that would be an interesting fight.
Because didn't he violate another incident that he had? I have to research it, but I feel like he's out for another year.
Yeah, because it was right around a year ago when he got suspended, right? And it was a 2-year thing.
I'm gonna look it up.
Well, you look that up. Jon Jones, Brock Lesnar, right?
Yep.
That would be insane.
Oh yeah.
But come on, man. I don't think that's gonna happen. But I think he convinced DC to drop
to 205.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to convince him to drop. DC's the only, well, besides you apparently, DC's the only person on planet Earth that, other than Jon Jones, that wants that fight at 205. Everyone wants it at heavyweight. Dana White wants it at heavyweight. The fans want it at heavyweight.
I don't see Jon Jones going up.
He's not. Well, he's not. He's literally
smart.
said he's not.
He's smart.
He's smart. Yeah.
He's smart.
I mean, we can call it what it is, which is a pussy move. Which it is a pussy move.
Yeah,
but at the
when
same
you
time,
win, how much of a pussy are you? I think. Well, it definitely benefits DC more than anything.
So he's I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Verdum's eligible to return in May 2020.
Oh, it's too long from now.
Unless Jon Jones finessed the UFC to kill his suspension.
And
Right?
also, Verdum announced a while ago his release from the UFC.
Wow, that was a.
Did I forget about that? Or
Yeah,
when did that happen?
well, this is what I'm seeing. Having 2 fights left in his contract, Verdum announced that he has requested for a release from the UFC.
Wouldn't that mean he has to retire? Because if he, oh no, he was released.
He requested a release.
He requested a release in January 2019. That was a while ago.
Did he get it?
I don't know. This was reported by MMA Fighting.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I don't think that's gonna happen because Dana knows that if he lets Fabrizio go, he's still gonna fight somewhere.
Well, until May 2020, right?
Until May 2020, yeah.
And he's 41 right now.
Actually, he's only suspended if he's trying to fight under a North American promotion.
Yeah, he can fight overseas, I guess, right?
Yeah. Does he really want to do that though?
But that's just a discussion for another day. But
yeah. All right, I think that does it. Yeah, we just did an hour and a half, boys.
Anything else to announce? Could we talk about the Cyborg news that we are super late on?
Oh yeah, that we called. I mean, not that it was the biggest thing in the world, but yeah,
I called it
for Bellator. Yeah.
So, have you been following along Chris Cyborg? So she got released by the UFC.
Whoa.
We talked about it, and I said Bellator was a likely destination for her. She ended up signing with Bellator.
Yep.
I've been watching her interviews as of the last week. She seems very happy.
Yep.
And good on her.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. She seems very happy. They were talking about her. They were asking questions about her getting an immediate shot at the title with Julia Budd.
Yeah.
I don't think.
No,
I think she needs to get a fight first before she gets a crack at the title.
That'd be blowing her low too soon.
Yeah, I would agree.
Why was she released?
There was just back and forth between her and the UFC as far as the direction that she want to go and they want to go. And there was this black Bud.
We covered this on another podcast where I can show you. But in a nutshell, basically what happened is, so I'll try to squeeze this all in. So this story actually starts years ago before Chris was ever in the UFC. She got popped for steroids, and they were asking Dana White about it, and Dana White fucking ripped her a new one. He said that she looked like Vanderlei Silva in a dress.
Yeah, and that boy is ugly.
He even mocked her. He stood up and went like this.
Yeah.
And was telling she's juiced up on roids and shit like that, right? Around that same time, Joe Rogan was in a podcast, and him and Tony Hinchcliffe were making fun of her. And Tony Hinchcliffe says something along the lines of yeah, she's probably the only female fighter that cuts weight by cutting off her dick. Shit like that. So then she makes it into the UFC, right? And so they have to work that relationship out. And then ever since she was in the UFC, she felt like Dana never really gave her the respect that she had. And after she got knocked out by Amanda Nunes, all Dana White was talking about was how Amanda Nunes was the greatest of all time, which is true. But he was also just talking about how Cyborg was being a baby and that she didn't want to fight her again and yada yada. Meantime, this whole time, Cyborg is like, no, I want to fight Amanda Nunes again. So eventually what happened was it got down, some word got out that what happened was the UFC handed her a multi-fight contract and she didn't want to take it. She wanted a one-fight contract, which at that point, her relationship with Dana White started getting really ugly and they were basically talking nothing but shit to each other. So anybody with a brain would realize that if she's asking for a one-fight deal, she wants to rematch Amanda Nunes
and then bounce,
beat her and bounce,
and
go somewhere else. And Dana White's like,
yeah,
no,
it was quite obvious.
So that's ended up what happening. But I think honestly, it's what's best for both parties because
So how do you like this for Cyborg?
I think it's great. And we touched again on it about the podcast before, but Cyborg does a really good job of building her brand, and that's such a cliche thing. We've talked about it, like building your brand, right? But Cyborg really does do a good job of that. She's not just a fighter; she puts her name out there for other things. She does charitable stuff. She does stuff with the fans. She's really great with fans. She has Cyborg Nation. Like there's all this stuff for her that's not fighting, right? And in my opinion, the UFC didn't help her with any of that shit. They were basically just giving her fights and like that's it. They weren't hyping her up basically, right? They weren't trying to build her brand with her, right? Now conversely, she used to fight on Strikeforce, where the promoter was Scott Coker, who's now the promoter at Bellator. And Scott Coker is known for being a man of the people. That dude does all kinds of cool shit. Like if you walk up to Scott Coker and like, hey, this will be some cool shit for you to do that the UFC doesn't do, Scott Coker will be like, hell yeah, let's do that, right? He's down to do shit like that. So for me, it's better for Cyborg to go to Bellator where they're actually going to work with her and promote her the way that she deserves to be promoted.
Yeah.
And also she can get... Cyborg is one of the few female fighters that has a brand like that. Right? So the fact that at Bellator she can get outside sponsors is huge. She can get sponsors for her shorts. Okay. She can get sponsors for the banner that goes behind her before fights. That's all huge. That's all extra money for her. And also you put all that aside, the initial contract that she just signed with Bellator is the biggest contract handed to a woman fighter in MMA history. So she's already making giant bank.
Figures on that.
We don't know. I don't think they disclose it, but we know she's well taken care of. Yeah. And I think she's in a better spot right now.
Right. And also with Amanda Nunes now being the featherweight champ and other people coming in, like Felicia Spencer putting on a valiant performance versus her, I don't think that the UFC needs Cyborg anymore for the 145-pound division.
There is no division there.
They don't need her. She doesn't need them. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think this is a great spot for her. There is a division in Bellator at 145.
Yep.
There are fighters there.
Yep.
UFC does not have... I'm going to keep saying it. There are not enough fighters to consider that as a division.
Nope.
If you look at their UFC website, all you see is a champion and nothing below that. Yep. There is no rankings. So there's no division there. On top of that, there's a clause or something in her contract where it allows her to box.
Oh, shit.
What she actually has been wanting to do.
Yeah.
So good on her. She's making a ton of money. She's with the right people. She's with the right organization. And we already talked about Scott Coker and what type of guy he is. He's a man of the people. He's a man of the fighters.
Yep.
So I think this was a perfect place for Cyborg, and good on her.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about, Manny?
No, man.
No?
I don't know
How was your week?
Dude, it was...
What you been up to, bro?
Bro, just working. You guys left me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very unfortunate. I miss you guys.
I miss you too, buddy.
I'm glad you guys are back.
Hell yeah.
Doing your thing.
Hell yeah.
Don't ever leave me again.
So anyway, people out there, give Manny the homie a shout out.
Well,
let us know what you thought.
Do you wanna tell your Instagram and where they can?
Hell yeah, dog,
bro. Where they can follow you.
So Twitter is @MannyStanciu. That's STANCIU. There's two.
You got a Snapchat, Instagram.
That's Snapchat is Serial Gang or Die. Can't forget that. And then Instagram is the same as my Twitter is Manny Stanciu. So
cereal as in like the breakfast.
Yes.
Cereal Gang.
And what I'll do is I'll have the tags on the description in case you want to give them a follow.
Make it hard, so Twitter, IG.
There you go. And Snapchat.
So anyway, let us know what you guys thought. Let us know what's up for next week, what you guys want us to talk about or bring up, or anything you guys want us to do. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
Go Raiders.
What?